Hey everyone, I'm Bree here with Z.
Yes, Z and Bree. That is how our dynamic duo has come to be. Wow, I sound like Dr. Seuss.
Poetry.
Okay. But today we just wanted to make a short video. You all know us. If you don't know us, you can come and get to know us. But we just wanted to talk about the postvention communities of practices and how we've led up to what we're doing right now. And so, Bree, where did we start?
We started this journey about, 4 years ago, with our colleague Francesca as well, leading the initial conversations around trying to figure out what we mean when we say postvention and how that's looking in the field and bringing together folks who are navigating um, a suicide death in their communities and how we might support those spaces and support the supporters, right? Is the initial conversation. And as we kept having these communities of practice, year in and year out, the needs really evolved, and how we planned and designed the community of practice really brought us to this point of realizing there isn't a one size fits all approach to postvention. And how might we help categorize or label it in a way that allows for an expansive, embodied, contextualized sense? And we came to this idea of the term liberated school suicide postvention and really thinking about how we might distinguish that. And so that was kind of our journey. And I'm curious, Z, can you give a bit more context about our journey to the word liberated specifically and how we might distinguish it?
Yeah, I think in that first year when we were talking about expanding and embracing what postvention is, a lot of people asked the question about, okay, how do I apply this to where I am? And we were like, well, that depends on your community. And so I'm in public health, so I use a lot of it depends because that's what we say in public health. People don't like that in education all the time. And so I was like, really, the word we're looking for is liberated. We're thinking about what Priest referred to is this is not a one size fit all. You don't have to do anything with any sort of fidelity, for sure. And so even when I'm asked to define what liberation is, I'm like, for who? For myself, for my community,
Mm,
for the Black youth that I'm talking to within my research, for the Black people that I'm talking to within my research, because liberation is different for different people and for different communities. And so when we started to define this, we were like, well, let's just say what it is and what it is not. And so that's what you'll see in any of the presentations that you bring up with us is what it is and what it is not. Um, and so, really, what we're getting at with liberated postvention is that we don't want a definition of postvention because we don't want to limit you and what you could do because liberation is about imagining what could be. What we talk about now is how can we be responsive to our communities? How
mm,
can we be responsive to the stigma that is behind grief, that is behind a suicide death? And with that, we do not try to define what it is, but we ask you to be critical about how you're approaching postvention, how you're approaching policy, how you're approaching praxis, because
mm,
that's truly the questions that you need to be asking yourselves as you do this work. And that leads into liberated postvention.
mm. So I'm hearing this deeply contextualized, deeply culturally relevant, deeply reflective approach to saying, who are you? What do you need? And what does actually processing grief and loss look like in the full, authentic nature of every part of who you are? And how do we build the capacity of systems to learn how to tolerate that ambiguity and lack of rigid step-by-step checklists, which I think so often public health and education really love their checklists. So moving
Mhm.
away from the checklist way of postvention and really into this embodied, authentic expression of grief in a community context.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
that's
what
what
I'm
we're
hearing you
doing.
say. Yeah.
Definitely. We're trying to humanize the experience because it's
Ooh.
been dehumanized for so long. Um, so keeping that in mind, while we said we might be defining liberated postvention today, the actual definition is figuring out how to humanize the people who have often been marginalized, the people who have often been unheard, and the people who
Mm.
have often been silenced through different stigmas that live in our society and in our norms.
That's so good. So if you're
Yeah.
at all curious about this conversation and understanding more about what Z and I are talking about, this is an invitation for you to join us on December 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time on Zoom for this conversation. This will be gathering 2 of this year's community practice where we're really digging into a Socratic style dialogue, talking about problems of practice that are surfacing in your context. And so we'll have a few folks who are kind of serving as case models for us to talk, discuss, and grapple with this idea of liberated school suicide postvention. So we hope you can join us.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.